10 minutes left. I'm wondering, I have a few more questions.
Yeah.
Would you be able to stay a little bit beyond the time we had set out? It's absolutely not, you don't have to at all. I
Yeah.
can try and go through just a few more of the questions so that it's more
Yeah.
distinct. But if you have to leave, I completely understand, and that's totally okay.
Oh no, that's fine. My kid's not here yet, so
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted there by the time I looked, and I was like, oh my gosh, an hour has passed.
I know I talk a lot. I talk a lot.
Oh, it's great. We appreciate it. Um, so I guess we talked a lot about education and, you know, having the right types of supports for Indigenous youth and not impoverishing them from opportunities. I'm wondering if there's any types of system changes in education, for example, or healthcare that you think might be needed for Indigenous people to thrive.
Okay, sorry, I was reading a text. What did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Um, so we talked a little bit about education and how central that is to Indigenous young people, thinking about decolonization or connecting with communities and further understanding themselves. And I'm wondering from your experience, what kind of changes you think might be needed in a system like education to support Indigenous youth?
I think what changes? Like what specifically Yosowas or like the whole thing? Like the whole
Like
education?
the whole thing, education.
Oh my God.
It doesn't have to be too specific. Like, if there's something.
I was gonna be specific. I don't know. I feel like education is inherently really racist. I think we gotta start with acknowledging that, and like everybody acknowledging it, and also acknowledging that you can do harm even though you're an educator. And I feel like a lot of people like feel like, oh, I can do no harm. I have a book. I read things. I tell people things. Like, yeah, I get the ego of being like a friend of the workshop and being like, oh, I have all the answers, blah blah blah. But you can be harmful. You can be violent. Like we're all human. We're all made of bad parts and parts. Like if you just admit to your bad parts, it makes the bad parts a little bit less bad.
Yeah, so like owning moments of education that are racist and Shanna, I think.
Oh no.
Kinda,
Okay. I can pause the recording. All
happy
right. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so we were talking about changes in education that are needed to support Indigenous youth, and we talked about the education system acknowledging moments when it's racist and when teachers can perpetuate racism.
Yeah. And like what an accountability process looks like when you've caused harm, especially like I feel like there's a lot of like people that are like, okay, let's call people out for being problematic, but it's like, what does an accountability process look like? Why isn't there like not everybody has to be a part of the accountability process, but like there has to be some kind of accountability process. I don't know.
Right. So when
what does that look like? What does it look like? How do we start that? So I don't know.
Right. So just to summarize some of the things that I heard when we talked about this question is acknowledging moments of racism, like being able to outwardly say this was racist.
Yeah.
Is powerful, and having accountability for when the education system does wrong. And there's some wonderings about what that even looks like or how we do that.
Yeah. So maybe having a framework with that to start with. Because it shows that they're actually, like, it shows that people are actually trying to do better. Like, they actually give a shit if there's results for it. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. So I almost wonder then, are there important things that you wish that educators knew about or understood about Indigenous youth wellness? Like,
well, I feel like there's a lot of like people that project onto what Indigenous wellness should look like, especially people that are, not Indigenous youth. And I feel like Indigenous youth, even when like me being a youth, I didn't even understand what that meant. So like, not projecting of what it should look like letting the youth have agency over what their healing looks like and what the process is. I feel like some educators, well, most educators, because you kind of get into that role of like, oh, I'm on top of the hierarchy. I'm teaching all these kids, or I'm teaching all these people, so I'm like the top of the pyramid. So I should be telling people how they should be doing things. It's just like, yeah, some people are like,
So youth should have kind of like
more agency over it and not being told or like lectured, like just sharing the information and be like, it didn't happen on Yosawas. Never happened at Yosawas. Yosawas is really good for being like, hey, we're your peers, not your teachers, not your parents. Like Youth Co is really good with that. Like 100%. That is like really cool. But a lot of educators are not.
Yeah.
Especially in school settings. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. So it's like there should be more respect for youth and their right to self-determination.
Yeah.
And for them to heal on their own terms, it sounds like.
Yeah. And not to shame them if they're not ready to heal. I feel like a lot of people are like I understand why people go back to unhealthy behaviors. Like I 100% understand that. We should be able to have more capacity for people in that situation though, instead of being like, oh, I'm triggered, I can't deal with you, you're unhealthy, you're violent. Like nobody's gonna change if you just go right to like, hey, you're a piece of shit. Like shaming does not, and I feel like there's a lot of like micro shaming that happens too. Yeah. It's
more
like
compassion.
Yeah, and like more awareness of language also.
Right.
So yeah, which like Yosinawas does really good with, and like that's something I really liked about doing the workshops and learning about the workshops. Was like learning about the language. And like I already knew all of it, but it was cool to be like, oh, people are like actually taking the time to learn this. And then also having those conversations all the time with your coworkers. So it was like active learning about language and whatnot. So that's cool. Yosinawas is really good for that. But like most educators, most people that educate are not. They do not have that.
Right. So that kind of education and learning isn't yet really available to teachers or educators. And
no, and I feel like that comes with the system though. Like the teachers are the ones that are seeing the kids the most, right? I don't know. I feel like it's just all a part of it. I sound like a conspiracy theorist. Anyways.
No, I think what you're saying is important though. Like, there's some central learning that our educators who are going to be supporting Indigenous youth need to be able to speak about and manage and
be aware of
for, yeah, that they might not right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that's the start. I could probably like rant forever about this stuff, but I'll just give the short answers, which are not really short answers. These are short answers for me.
We're good. We appreciate any answer that you're sharing with us. It's very helpful. So we kind of went through some moments about. I'm going to ask you next about what some of your most meaningful experiences at Yosinawas were. I know we talked a bit about connecting with youth during, I think you spoke about education seminars or presentations. I'm wondering, if there's any particular moment with the youth that you wanted to share that was really special to you.
It was Cultures Healing. I feel like Cultures Healing was my favorite thing to do, which was like probably one of the only events I really did do